Hold on. Before you click off, I need you to hear me out today because I sat down and I watched episode 2 of this Netflix documentary, fully expecting to go off. And something happened that I did not expect. Something shifted for me. Now, before the royal community starts typing, I am not defending Netflix. I said what I said in episode 1, and I stand on that. The timing of this thing was tone deaf, disrespectful, and they clearly did not read the room. But here's the part that is messing with my head right now. What if Netflix didn't pull this documentary back because they actually wanted us to see something? Stay with me because by the end of this video, I think you're going to look at this whole thing completely different. And I promise you, part 3 could very well change everything I'm about to say today. I am Mackenzie. Welcome back to KrowndByKenzie. Let's get into it after the intro. Okay, so episode 2 picks up inside the courtroom, and I want to be real with you about something before I break this down. Growing up, most of us only got crumbs of this trial. Think about it. There were no cameras allowed inside that courtroom. None, zero, nada. So every single thing you and I thought we knew about what happened in that room, we got from a reporter standing outside, or an anchor sitting in a studio, or a commentator with their own agenda deciding what part of the story to give us that day. And here's the part that really got me. Where you live determine what version of Michael Jackson you actually got. If your local news outlet loved Michael, you got the truth. You got the full picture. You got the benefit of the doubt. But if your outlet was against him, they gave you the worst possible version of every single story. They sensationalized it. They stretched it. They painted him as exactly what they were accusing him of before a single verdict was ever reached. We were divided by our zip codes, and we ain't even know it. Episode 2 just confirmed something I suspected for a long time. The trial was never just about Michael Jackson, it was about who controlled the narrative, and for the first time, we are actually getting inside that courtroom. Now, let me tell you about day 1 of the actual trial. CBS trial analyst Trent Copeland described the scene outside of that courthouse as, and I'm paraphrasing here, an absolute circus. News trucks everywhere, helicopters in the air, news outlets from different countries. Some people were calling it a case of the century. And you know what? That description tells you everything. Because while all of that chaos was happening on the outside, while reporters were jockeying for position and running scripts back to their anchors, there were 12 regular people sitting inside their courtroom trying to actually figure out the truth. And then there is Cherie Wilkins. Now, this woman right here is somebody you and I both need to pay attention to because she said out loud what a lot of us felt at home. She didn't trust the media to give her an accurate picture of what was happening. So what she do? She quit her job. She moved to California. She showed up at that courthouse at 5:30 in the morning to get one of the limited public tickets they were giving out by lottery, just so she could sit in that courtroom and hear for herself. She quit her job, royal community. Now, ask yourself, why would someone do that? Because the gap between what the media was telling her and what she felt in her gut was so wide that she had to go find the truth for herself. That isn't a stand. That is a woman who could smell something was off and she got selected. She got in that room and we are going to find out what she ultimately concluded. Day 2, the witness everybody was waiting for, Martin Bashir. Now, if you watched episode 1 with me, you already know how I feel about this man and the role he played in setting all of this in motion. But let me tell you what happened when he actually walked into that courtroom. There was a fan outside holding a sign that said, and I want you to really read this, so pay attention. Bashir is the root of all evil. Outside, on a sign, at a courthouse. The fans knew. They knew from the jump. And then journalist Diane Diamond, who we talked about before, she was there covering the trial. She says when she and Bashir spotted each other, she went over to shake his hand. And when she grabbed his hands, his palms were soaking wet. They were moist. This man was terrified. Now, the defense's position was simple. You went in with one goal, get the scoop, you got the story and you manipulated Michael Jackson in participating in a documentary by making him believe it was going to be a positive thing. And then you used every answer he gave you to destroy him. Here's the part that hit me the hardest though. When that documentary started playing inside the courtroom, the Michael Jackson music, the footage, the judge, the jurors, even one of the prosecutors were bopping their heads, tapping their feet, moving to the music. And then the moment it got to the part with Gavin, the whole room went silent. Not one juror was taking notes now. They were just watching like a show. Because here's the thing about Michael Jackson that his enemies never fully understood. His presence, his music, his energy, it pulled people in even when they were trying to stay neutral, even in the courtroom, even on trial. And Bashir, when the defense came after him, he refused to answer most of the questions. He looked at the judge and said, I'm not going to answer. I'll let the work speak for itself. The work, his work. The documentary that helped put Michael Jackson on trial. That is work he wanted to speak for itself. And Juror 8, Melissa Hurd, said she genuinely felt like Bashir was trying to trap Michael, that the whole framing of that documentary was designed to make something look more than what it actually was. A juror said that. Keep that in your mind. Oh, and just in case you guys are wondering why I have these sunglasses on inside the house, these are my actual eyeglasses, courtesy of Ray-Ban. Don't you love a good pair? Now back to the story. Okay, I need everybody to stop scrolling, put that phone down, and look at me because this is the moment in episode 2 that made my jaw drop. Day 6 and 7, Gavin Avizo's brother Star takes the stand. Now, Star is testifying about a specific magazine, an adult magazine specific publication that he claims Michael Jackson showed him and his brother. He described it in detail. He is clear. He is confident. He says, yes, that is the magazine. This is the publication MJ used to expose us to that content. Defense attorney lets him finish, lets him lock in his testimony completely. Make sure Star has confirmed, yes, that exact magazine multiple times. And then Ms. Rob reveals the publication date, August 2003. August 2003. The family had left Neverland for good before that magazine even existed. The thing that Star described with absolute certainty, it hadn't even been printed yet when he claims it happened. The courtroom erupted. And then it got worse for the prosecution. There's an alarm system, a chime that goes off every single time anyone enters Michael's bedroom suite. And then there are stairs you have to climb before you even see into the bedroom itself. Starr testified he walked up those stairs one night and saw Michael in the bed doing something to his brother Gavin, who appeared to be out of it. But here's the problem. If that chime goes off every time someone enters, don't you think Michael would have heard it? Don't you think he would have stopped? Don't you think a man who had that level of security consciousness would have been fully aware someone was coming up those stairs? I want to take a second here because episode 2 answers something that I have literally wondered about since I was a child watching this trial. Why did Michael Jackson show up to court in pajamas? I remember being a kid and watching that on the news and thinking, what is going on? What is he doing? Is he okay? Is he doing this for attention? And the media ran with it. They painted it as erratic, as performative, as a man who didn't take the proceedings seriously or was trying to manipulate public sympathy. Here's what actually happened, though. Michael was at the hospital in Solvang, California, 37 miles away from the courthouse after injuring himself. He was in so much pain that the doctors gave him medication, then more medication. The total dosage they administered was described as, and I need you to hear this, enough to knock out an elephant. And while he was there heavily medicated in pain in a hospital bed, the judge issued a warrant for his arrest if he wasn't in that courtroom within 1 hour. 37 miles away, 45 minutes in normal conditions. 1 hour or your bond is revoked. That man's team threw his ass in the SUV, and that vehicle was doing 90 miles per hour down the California highway to get him to that courthouse in time. He had no time to go home, no time to change, no time to do anything except get there. And the prosecutor had the nerve to stand up and say he showed up looking feeble and frail as if he was trying to put on an act. He had just been given enough medication to knock out an elephant, and he still showed up. If that is not the definition of fighting for your life, I don't know what is. Now, I have to address someone. I'm going to keep it all the way real. There is a man who kept appearing in this documentary and under the title Family Friend, a man named Stacy Brown. And this man used his airtime to say with his full chest that Michael Jackson played the victim better than anyone he ever seen in his life. That showing up the way he did was, quote, master manipulation. Sir, Sir, I need Netflix to take that family friend graphic off the screen every time this man appears because what he is doing is not what a real friend does. Getting close to someone and then going on camera to tear them down, that is not a friend. That is an opportunist with a credential. And one of my subscribers, and bless you for sending me this, pointed out that there are pictures, allegedly, of this man having dinner with Diane Diamond, the same journalist who was covering this trial from the prosecutor's perspective. Now, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, allegedly, that this is a very interesting dinner reservation. And I need to say one more thing about this man before I move on. He pronounced pajamas as pajamas. Pajamas? Royal community. He really has to go. He really, truly has to go. Day 9, Gavin Avizo takes the stand. Now, I want to be careful here because I want to be fair. And I think being fair is what separates real commentary from just running with an agenda. Gavin testified he was detailed, he was specific, and multiple people in that courtroom, including jurors, said that when he talked about still missing Michael and wanted to be his friend again, it nearly tore their hearts out because of how sincere it felt. Michael's head dropped when he heard it. But here's what the prosecution could not control. And legal analyst Trent Copeland said this better than I could. The prosecution could control a lot of things, but they could not control the passage of time. When investigators first interviewed Gavin, he was a pre-pubescent boy, but by the time he took the stand, he had grown up. He had energy, he had fire, he had teenage hormones, and he was combative on that stand. He and Ms. Rao went back and forth so hard, the judge had to step in and warn them both. And then there was this moment. Gavin testified in direct examination that Michael told him something specific about masturbation. Ms. Rao looked at him and said, but in your original statement to the sheriff's department, you said your grandmother told you that exact same thing. So which is it? Were you lying then or are you lying now? And here is the most devastating line of the entire episode. Trent Copeland summed it up perfectly. The star witness for the prosecution had become the star witness for the defense. I'm not telling you what to conclude from that. I'm just telling you what the data said. Okay. I've been thinking about something since I finished watching this episode, and I need to share it with the royal community. Before episode 2 dropped, I was ready to come in here and drag Netflix. And I still think the timing of this release was wrong. The optics were off. The sensitivity, that was missing. And with all the cancellations and the outrage from the fan base, they should have read the room better. But here's the question I keep coming back to. If Netflix was really trying to bury Michael Jackson, if this was truly a hit job designed to destroy his legacy the way some people believe, why is the documentary showing us this? Why are they showing us Martin Bashir being exposed on Stan? Why are they showing us the magazine that didn't exist yet? Why are they showing us a juror who said she felt Bashir was trying to trap Michael? Why are they showing us Cherie Wilkins, a woman who quit her job and moved cities because she didn't trust the media? Why are they showing us any of this if the goal was to take Michael down? Here's my theory. I think Netflix saw what Michael Jackson biopic did at the office, $500 million. And yes, they wanted a piece of that. I am not going to pretend that is not a factor. That is absolutely a factor. But I also think there is something else happening here. I think part of why they did not pull the documentary back, despite the outrage, despite the cancellations, is because they knew what was actually in it. Think about it. If the thing was a one sided attack on Michael Jackson, if it was truly malicious, pulling it after the backlash would have been the smart PR move. You apologize, you delay, you reframe it, but they didn't do that. They let it drop. They let us, John Q. Public, watch it. And what are we watching? We are watching a case that most of us only ever get filtered through reporters and anchors who had their own agendas. Now, I know some parts were cut off. Don't get me wrong. We also are watching jurors speak for the first time, though. We are watching the inside of a courtroom that had no cameras. We are watching evidence that the media either buried or never had access to. Now, I want to be clear. I am not saying Netflix is doing this out of the love for Michael Jackson. By no means. What I am saying is this. Sometimes the people who don't fully read the room accidentally give us exactly what we need to say. And part three could completely change this theory. Don't get me wrong. I want you to know that whatever the finale shows us could flip everything I just said upside down, which is exactly why I need you to come back. Now, here's where episode 2 ends and why part 3 is everything. Day 19, the prosecution makes a calculated move. The judge allows them to present what is called propensity evidence, prior accusations against Michael Jackson, including cases that were already settled. And I have a real problem with this, and I want to put it on the table. How can you use accusations, not convictions, not verdicts, accusations, as proof that someone had a pattern of behavior? These cases were never proven. They were settled. And in this country, a settlement is not an admission of guilt. Most attorneys will tell you settlements happen for 100 different reasons: cost, time, privacy, protecting family members from the spectacle of a trial. But the prosecution wanted to reframe everything around one idea: once a predator, always a predator. And the reporter closing out episode 2 said exactly that. Quote, this is now a trial about pattern evidence, propensity, and a once pedophile, always a pedophile. Now we know how this ends. We know the verdict. But part 3 is going to show us how they got there, what the jury actually weighed, what ultimately made 12 regular people look at all of this evidence, all of these witnesses, all of these contradictions, and come back with the decisions they came back with. And I need you here for that conversation. I'm going to leave you with this. I came into this documentary ready to be angry, okay? And parts of it still make me upset. The timing, the lack of sensitivity, the Stacey Browns of the world, Pajamas, getting a platform to call themselves family friends. But I also left episode 2 with something I did not have before. I left with answers to questions I have been carrying since I was a child watching this trial on the news, not knowing what was real and what was spin. And I think that might be what this documentary is actually doing, whether Netflix intended it or not, giving us the room, finally giving us, John Q. Public, the room. Based on everything we have seen so far, the finale is either going to confirm everything I said today or completely flip the script. Either way, I'll be here. Will you? Before you go, if you made it this far, you are already part of the royal community. Hit that subscribe button, like the video. If I gave you something to think about today, share it with somebody, anybody who needs to see it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one.